Joined by head coach Pedro Arruza from Randolph-Macon College Yellow Jacket football. They were picked number 2 in this year's preseason poll. Coach, give me a little bit of a state of the union or a state of the Yellow Jackets coming into this preseason.
I mean, like everybody else, I'm really excited about the season. I'm excited about the team that we have coming back. I feel like you spend the entire off season kind of working towards this moment and this time, and I'm just excited to get started.
We'll start on the offensive side of the football. Over the past 6 to 8 years or so, you've had a lot of running backs that have come through, run for 1,000 yards. And last year, you may have graduated, arguably the best of them, in Will McGee, who was last year's Offensive Player of the Year. What was it like to coach a running back like that could just take the ball and you knew was, except for maybe I think 2 games out of the year, he was going to run for at least 150 yards for you? And who do you see coming into this year that's ready to take the ball for you again?
Will was an exceptional player for us, and I think the one thing that made him unique was the ability to take the ball and go the distance every time that he carried the football. I mean, he had unbelievable speed, great vision. I mean, he was a tough kid, very durable kid. Over the 2 years that he was our main ball carrier, he didn't miss a single game, didn't miss a single snap. I mean, he was a guy that, was very consistent, super durable, super tough, and, had a great career. And, we've always had good running backs. I think the thing that I think sometimes gets overlooked is we've had a great tradition of offensive linemen as well. We've had some great offensive linemen over the years. I mean, I went back the other day, I was watching some of our cut-ups from 2010, and I mean, Morgan Cross, Alex Johnson, Rich Fluharty. I mean, those guys were great football players for us, and that's been the key for us. It's we've had great running backs, but we've also had a great stable of offensive linemen.
Who are some of the new names we could see tote the ball for you this year?
John Bird was our backup tailback last year. He was our fullback, did a great job for us. I mean, he's a lot different than Will McGee. He's a bigger back. He's a little bit more physical, but certainly won't bring the kind of speed that Will brought to the equation. But he'll be a guy that'll definitely be in the mix. Jesse Knapp is another guy that has a chance to be in the mix. And then we have a bunch of other guys that I think could factor in. I'm not sure that we're going to have a featured back this year. It might be more running back by committee, but I like the guys that we have there, and we'll kind of see how it all unfolds during camp. I think the tough thing for us is we don't have spring football. We don't get to see those guys in pads. I mean, the last time that I saw our kids in pads was in November. So, there's still a lot of unproven commodities and a lot of question marks for us.
Quarterback is a hot position across the conference this year. It's a problem that, I say a problem being that 3 or 4 of the schools have to replace graduated quarterbacks. Yeah. You don't have that issue with Zach Nacarado back. What do you see from him this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a 3-year starter. He's going into his 4th year. I've had a lot of kids that have played for me over the years. I don't know if I've ever had a better kid in terms of his character, in terms of his work ethic, in terms of his commitment. I mean, he does everything that we ask him to do and beyond. I thought he had a great freshman year. Thought he had a really solid sophomore campaign. Didn't think he was as consistent as a junior as I would have liked for him to be, but he had an unbelievable spring, and he's been working his tail off. And I expect that, for us to take that next step, I think as a program, as an offense, he's going to have to be able to throw the ball more effectively, and I think he'll be able to do that. I've got a lot of confidence in him. So he's a kid that only comes along every so often in terms of his character and the leadership and all the other things that he brings to the table. I mean, you could not find a better person.
Let's switch sides to the defensive side of the ball now. You've got a lot of guys back there from a really good defensive squad from last year. You got somebody anchoring the line like a Calvin Davis. You've got a linebacker like Marcus Mitchell, who was a second-teamer as a freshman last year. And your secondary has somebody back like Eric Long in it. Talk a little bit about what it means to have some people that know how you want to play to help with the turnover that you inevitably have every year in college football.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a big help. I mean, we had a lot of youth on defense last year. We had a lot of guys that, were playing for the first time, but I like the guys that we have coming back up front. We've got more experience coming back up front than we've had in a long time with Calvin, with Matt Doherty, with Joe Siegel, and Tom Solak, who I think is an exceptional player and a guy that plays with a great motor. So we've got those guys coming back. We've got a little bit more returning in the secondary on the back end than we've had in a long time. Eric Long had a really good year last year, and Connor Lane came on strong at the end of the year. So I feel better about our safety position than I've felt in a while. Now, one concern that I have is we don't have tremendous depth back there, but we've got some good players back there, and we've got a good number of guys coming back at corner that are all going to be competing for spots, and some guys in the freshman class that I think are pretty athletic. And then linebacker-wise, Marcus, I thought he had a really good year for a freshman. Now the question is going to be, can he take that next step as a sophomore? But I think he's a great football player. He's a great kid. Good student. I mean, again, another guy that just has extremely high character. So, I'm excited about the group of guys that we have coming back. offensively, defensively. I think another guy that we have to replace that I think a lot of people have overlooked is Tracy Merton. I mean, our punter did an unbelievable job last year, and he's not going to be an easy guy to replace by any stretch of the imagination. But like any other year, you've got a lot of guys coming back. Now it's just a question of how well we can gel and, what kind of chemistry we have. And, ultimately, I think the most important thing is, can you build a tough football team? If we're not a tough football team, we're going to have a tough road ahead of us.
When we take a look at things from a conference perspective, the last couple of years we've seen some more success on the national stage. 2 years ago, Washington Lee up at Hobart, 1 or 2 plays away from maybe coming away with that win. We saw what Hampton-Sydney did last year, winning a game and going out to the number 2 team in the country. But then when you look at that on an internal perspective, each of those years, the teams in the league played with those teams that made runs in the NCAA tournament or showed well in the NCAA tournament. What does that say for both Randolph-Macon and for the league, knowing that you can play with those types of teams and they're playing with the quote-unquote big boys of the national tournament?
Yeah, I mean, like anything else, you want to see teams in your league do well on a national scale, but, our focus is always internal. We try to get as good as we can get and be as good as we can be and recruit as well as we can recruit. And I don't really pay attention to a lot of the things that go on outside of our own program. I think that obviously it's a very tough league. There are a lot of good coaches in the league. Everybody talks about parity. It's become much of a cliche, I think, in our league. But, bottom line is if you don't come to play every week and you're not consistent, then you're going to have a tough road ahead of you because, you look at the league the last couple of years and, some of the teams in our league have gotten off to great starts. They're 3-0, 4-0 going into the conference schedule. And, they faltered down the stretch. And then you've got other teams. I know Guilford got off to a tough start last year and then played really, really well towards the end of the year. So I don't think you can take anything for granted. I don't think that you can get in, start at the beginning of the year and look at the things that are happening in the league and necessarily predict what's going to happen down the stretch. So bottom line is you've got to get your team ready to play every week. You've got to keep your guys motivated. And, it's a tough league. It's a tough league. And, obviously we've stacked up pretty well against some of the other teams outside of the conference, but I think until we make a run, somebody in our league makes a run deep into the playoffs, there's a lot to, obviously that's got to happen at some point. So, and it hasn't happened yet. So we've done well, we've come close, but, close isn't good enough.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for joining us today, and good luck this season.
I appreciate it.